Hey everyone, welcome back, or welcome if you are new. My name is Tanya, and today we're doing a fun little fall video. We're doing the Finally Fall book tag. I've seen a couple other creators do this tag, Rhonda Holden being one of them, and I think Elliot Brooks also did it. So it's kind of floating around there, but it's just a fun way to appreciate fall and give some book recommendations. So I thought it'd be fun to share with you all as well. And so that way you could see some of my kind of fall themed book recommendations. Now, some of these are full on fit the vibes of fall, and then some of them are just general book recommendations that go along with a fall prompt. But yeah, since fall is my favorite time of year, I thought it'd be fun to jump on the bandwagon and make this video. So our first prompt is Crunchy Leaves, The World is Full of Color. Pick a book that has red, orange, or yellow on the cover. So for this prompt, I'm really picking two books. So it's a duology, and depending on the version you have, the first book has some red on the cover, but for some editions it's green, and then the second book is actually red. And the series that I'm recommending for this one is the Crimson Moth duology by Kristen Ciccarelli, and I thought this one was perfect for this time of year. It is a YA romantasy. The books aren't overly long, and the main character in the book is a witch, and our male main character is a witch hunter. So like I said, that definitely has all the right vibes for this time of year. And since the books aren't very long, you can easily read both of them over the fall months. And in this series, we're following Rune, who, as I mentioned, is a witch, and she is a witch in hiding because where she lives, witches were once in power, and the last witches that were rulers were not good witches at all. They murdered people, they abused them, they did everything for their own gain, and so there was an uprising, and now all witches are hunted. If you're found to be a witch, then you are executed. And what's kind of unique about this book is when you use your witchly powers, it is blood magic, and it can be your own blood, or in certain circumstances, it can be someone else's blood. But when you use your magic and you take blood from yourself, then it leaves silver scars, and that's kind of your witch marks. So it's really hard to hide if you are a witch. But our main character, Rune, how she has been hiding it is she has been saving blood from her period, which I thought was very unique, and using that for kind of her different witchy type needs. And she has been portraying herself as this flippant, high noble, doesn't care about anyone, not very intelligent. But then in her secondary life, she's out saving witches from the witch hunters and just trying to protect her kind as best that she can. And then our male main character, who, as I said, is Gideon, he is the head witch hunter, and he begins to suspect that something may be not quite right with Rune, and she tries to also use him to get information on witches that they've captured. So they're kind of playing each other and pretending to, have affections for one another. But then, of course, it turns into a real romance. And that's kind of the gist of the book. It's very good, very quick read, a little bit of spice, but not too much. So I would definitely, if you like a quick, easy, witchy type romantasy, put this one on your TBR for the fall. And then for our second prompt, it is Cozy Sweater Weather. Pick a book that feels like a warm hug. Now for this one, I had to go with a cozy fantasy, of course, and I went with A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic by J. Penner. And this book truly is like a sweater. It's like a warm hug. It is found friends and family. It is cozy baking. It is learning to love yourself for who you are. Just a really cute book. And this one is also pretty short. You can read it in one setting. There's a few different books in the series, but they're all pretty small ones that you can get through, as I said, in about one sitting. And in this first book, we're following Arletta, who is a human baker, which means that she has no magic. And humans are kind of looked down upon for the fact that they don't have any magic. But Arletta is a phenomenal baker, and she bakes with love, and that is kind of her own personal magic, but she doesn't really see this. She's always seen herself as kind of a lesser baker because she doesn't have magic like some of the other races do. And, you know, she's allowed people to look down on her and kind of, even though they enjoy her goods, kind of push her to the wayside because she doesn't have confidence in herself. And she lost her parents at a young age, which I'm sure contributed to that, but she's kind of been taken in or, you know, given second parents by her neighbors who live next door, which if I remember correctly, they're orcs. And they secretly decide to enter Arletta into this baking championship, and without her knowing about it. And things, you know, kind of progress, and she ends up going to the capital with a cute woodland elf, and they start to form kind of a relationship. And then when she gets to the capital, there's lots of things that go on with this baking championship, but in the end, she meets great friends. She finds someone she can love, and she begins to recognize herself for who she is and her kind of found family. So definitely has all those cozy fantasy vibes and will give you all the warm, cozy feels. So great one to pick up this fall. And I just really enjoyed Jay Penner's writing in general. It was very descriptive. You got, you know, all the atmospheric kind of qualities of the relationships and just the setting in general. So definitely would recommend picking up this series if you like cozy fantasies. Then our third prompt is pumpkin spice and everything nice. Pick a book that everyone else seems to love, but you do not. And for me, that book was Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. And for this series, I just couldn't make it all the way through it. I found the main character, Diem, kind of on the annoying side, just in the fact that she just kept making these choices that we knew weren't going to end well. And I felt like inside my head, I was yelling at her the whole time. And even though it was a very unique world, unique magic system, really enjoyed her at moments and how she was a strong female character. And the love interest was phenomenal, but I couldn't get past the fact that Diem just was, you know, mentally not the character for me. So I read the first book, I got like a quarter of the way into the second book, and I had to put it down because it was ruining my enjoyment of the book. So it just wasn't one that was for me. I know tons of people who love this series, but I am not indeed one of them. Then for our fourth prompt, it's crisp fall air. Pick a book that made you feel refreshed or gave you a new perspective. And for this prompt, I'm choosing Emily Wilde's An Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. And this is another cozy fantasy. As you can see, it's a pretty short read, and I wouldn't necessarily say it has completely fall vibes because this first book does take place in some colder months, so more of a wintry feel, but it is very outdoorsy, which makes me think of fall, and it is very much, you know, part of nature. So for those aspects of it, I think it's a great fall read, and I just really enjoyed the way this book made me feel. Now, it wasn't something earth-shattering where like I got this whole new outlook on life from this book, but it just made me feel good, and for that reason I am picking this book. We're following Emily Wilde, who is a scholar at Cambridge, and she is studying fairies. And in this particular version of our world, fairies are something that people know exists. People do study them. They interact with humans, but not on like a grand scale. So she is doing a field study of just trying to make an encyclopedia about all the different species and types of fairies that there are out there. And so she ends up traveling to this small, I guess it's like Norwegian. I don't know where it's located, but it's, in a cold region, to do some more research for her encyclopedia, and all kinds of different things happen once she's there. The love interest in this book is one of her fellow scholars, who their relationship grows throughout the 3 books, and you kind of get to know more about our male main character and his background, because it's not really as it seems, but just a really cute, cozy fantasy. And I liked all the like footnotes in it, and how it was kind of written in some aspects and times of it like a field journal. So if you haven't picked this one up yet and you do like cozy fantasy, it's definitely worth a try. I enjoyed all 3 books. They're not plot heavy. It is definitely more of an atmospheric, cozy kind of read. But yeah, this is a good one to try this fall if you haven't already. And apologies in advance if I sound a little scratchy or nasally, but it is ragweed season. And so until things actually freeze, my allergies are not my best friend. So just one of the joys of having allergies and living in a climate where there's a whole lot of ragweed. Our 5th prompt is apple picking. Choose a book you picked up on a whim and ended up loving. And for me, this was The Book of Azrael by Amber Nicole. I've talked a lot about this in a lot of videos. It's just a really great series. It's somewhat heart-wrenching. Every book has made me very emotional, but it wasn't one that I was expecting to enjoy as much as I did. It is an urban fantasy, and previously to this year, I thought I wasn't a big urban fantasy fan, but I found a couple different series that are urban fantasies that I've really enjoyed this year, this being one of them. Book of Azrael is the first book in the Gods and Monsters series, and it's just a great read. If you enjoy a book that kind of takes you on an emotional roller coaster, the female main character in this book is named Diana, and she is unapologetically fierce. I mean, she will tell you what she thinks. She's very feminine while still being a complete and total badass, and she hides a very tender heart under that tough facade. And Diana is an Igmortium, and this is basically just a kind of what's considered to be a monster. She has a lot of powers. She can create fire. She can shift shapes. She has, unrivaled strength. And she also, if she drinks someone's blood or tastes someone's blood, she can get images from that person through their blood. So very powerful. And she was turned into this monster by a very bad person, and she's kind of been trapped working with him for like hundreds and hundreds of years, because the bargain was she got to be turned into this monster in order for her sister to be saved from dying. And then from that point forward, she's just basically been forced to do, her creator's bidding. And what ends up happening is there's like a shift in kind of the balance of the world, and her boss has decided that he wants this certain relic called the Book of Azrael. And so Diana and some of his other kind of minions are searching for this book, and she ends up going and getting captured by Sam-Kael, who is a god from another planet. Things kind of spiral from there. Sam-Kael realizes that he can use Diana to help him find this book before her boss and, you know, the rest of his kind of crew finds it. So they're working together, and Diana ends up agreeing to all of this if Sam Kyle will help keep her sister safe. So as they're working together, kind of a romance blossoms, and the end of this book is unbelievable. It's just such an emotional roller coaster, but I loved it. So if that kind of high stakes, fast paced, gut wrenching kind of book sounds like your cup of tea, then I would definitely try the Book of Azrael. It is longer. All of the books in this series are longer, but well worth it. Then our sixth prompt is Scary Movie Night. Pick a book that genuinely spooked you. Now, I'm a big baby about scary things, and I will say I don't read a ton of like horror books or, you know, super dark thrillers or anything like that. But I did go through a period of time where I read a lot of Dennis Lehane books. Some of his books have been turned into movies. The one I'm going to talk about in this recommendations being one of them, but he is just a great thriller writer. I haven't kept up with his books. I don't know if he's still, you know, cranking them out, but I read a lot of his books probably 10 or so years ago, and one of those was Shutter Island, and it just is creepy. It gives you the heebie-jeebies. It's just a great psychological thriller, and you never know for sure what's really going on, what's reality, what's not reality, you know, what is actually happening until you get to the end of the book, and then it's not really what you expect it to be either. But this was definitely one that creeped me out. If you've seen the movie, it was, I can't remember when the movie came out, but I think the book came out in like 2002. I didn't read it right when it came out. It was some years later when I read it. But there is a movie, and basically we are following a couple of FBI agents, and it's set in I believe the 1950s, maybe 50s or 60s, and they're doing an investigation at a psychiatric hospital, which that in itself is creepy enough. But they're looking into the disappearance of a prisoner that was being held there, and this woman had, you know, supposedly killed numerous people, and then she just went missing from the psychiatric hospital, and now they're going in and just trying to figure out what happened. And it is a super creepy book. So if you like that sort of thing, and you like not kind of knowing what is reality and what may not be, and you're up for some twists and turns, then, you know, even though this is an old book, I would still highly suggest picking it up. But I don't really read many books like that anymore, so I've moved on to reading not quite as many creepy books. Maybe I'll pick those kind of books up again someday, but for now, yeah, I'm just too big of a baby to feel scared while I'm sitting in my bed reading. Then for our seventh prompt, it is football season. Pick a book that had you cheering for the characters like they were part of your team. And I will say, I do not watch football. I do not watch any sports that involve balls. My sports that I watch are more like gymnastic, diving, track and field, those sorts of things. So I don't know a lot about football, but I could still pick a book for this prompt. And I chose Phantasma by Callie Smith. I thought this was a perfect book for the prompt because I was definitely cheering for Ophelia to win, you know, the trials that were taking place in Phantasma. It's a dark romantasy and has all those gothic vibes, so it's also just, you know, a perfect book for this time of year. So in this book, we're following Ophelia and her sister Genevieve. Mostly Ophelia, though, is the main character in this book. And Ophelia is a necromancer. Her mother has recently died, and so her powers have flowed over to Ophelia. And so besides dealing with that, She has also come to learn that her mother actually had a lot of debt, and her sister are about to lose the house that's been in their family for generations. So her sister Genevieve ends up entering this contest called Phantasma that is run by a devil in order to try to win a wish to save their house. Ophelia ends up joining the contest as well because she wants to go in and find her sister and just the two of them get out of there and stay safe. But it ends up, once Ophelia goes in, she can't go out until the game is over. And it's a trial system kind of game. So she ends up having to stick it out just to get to the end and be able to find her sister again. So really kind of fun trials in this one. Some of them are a little bit gruesome, but really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed her relationship with the love interest in this book. And, you know, it's just perfect for this time of year. Then our 8th prompt is changing leaves. Pick a book where a character goes through a major transformation. And for this one, I had to pick A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. A lot of you have probably already read this book, but I felt like it fit this prompt to the T. Nesta, who is our main character in this particular group, goes through a transformation like no other. She had so much baggage that she had to work through and so much accepting of different parts of herself that she maybe didn't really like that she needed to also do, as well as look at the good that existed in her as well. That it really was just an amazing transformation and an amazing read. I cried multiple times in this book, which isn't necessarily unusual, but it did actually make me sob. And it's just such a good journey. If you haven't read this series by Sarah J. Maas, the ACOTAR series, pick it up. All of the books are great. I know some people kind of are wishy-washy about the first book, but I still really enjoyed it, and it was such a necessary part of the story. You won't regret reading any of them, and then at the end of the series, at least where the end is for now, you get to pick up this gem and learn all about Nesta, and it is so worth it. And then the 9th prompt is Pumpkin Patch. Pick your favorite fall-themed or autumn set read. And for this, I'm choosing Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I've recently finished this book and have absolutely loved it. Now, it's not necessarily set solely in the fall, but it is also kind of a gothic book. And our main character in this book, Signa, she has this ability that she can see death, and death can see her, and they can communicate back and forth with each other. And you know, it's just, there's such great banter between them as characters. And then you kind of have the spooky, gothic-y kind of vibes with her ability to see and communicate with death. And she has some other powers that kind of go along with that. And this is set kind of in a high noble kind of situation. I don't know if it's Regency or Victorian, but it's kind of in that era where, you know, people had seasons and all the women presented themselves to be picked for marriage. And Signa has always thought that's the kind of life she wanted. And she really just did not like the parts of herself that were a little, as she saw them, on the darker side. And, you know, the fact that death seemed to follow her. Those, you know, she thought those were all bad things in her life. But during this book, a mystery comes up that she has to solve, and she begins to work with death to solve this mystery. And it's just, like I said, they have such a great banner. It's a really good plot, really good characters, and I just thought it was a great series, captivating. I've now started Foxglove, which is the second book. So the audiobooks for these are also great. So if you're an audiobook fan, I think that takes it up to another level as well. So that is my pick for Pumpkin Patch. Our 10th prompt is Bonfire Nights. Pick a book that you want to read and discuss with a group of friends. And for that one, I chose Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This one is also great for this time of year because we are following 3 women who have been turned into vampires. We have Maria, who is our first character, and she is from the 1500s when she was turned. We have Lottie, who was turned in the 1800s, I believe in England. And then we have Alice, who is turned in our modern day. And why I think this book would be so great to discuss, in a book club setting or with just a group of friends is it is such a character study. There is a plot in this book, but the plot is not what the book is about. It's about these 3 characters, their relationships, how they end up getting intertwined, how their humanity and their morality changes once they are vampires and they start to lose that little bit of themselves. So just a really interesting read as far as the plot being secondary. Now, I think that could have been, rounded out a little bit better, at least in my opinion. I thought the plot almost took away a little bit from the book. But as far as the character work, it was absolutely amazing. V.E. Schwab's writing is really easy to read. It's not simple. It is descriptive in nature, but it's not hard to read either. So this was the first book I read by V.E. Schwab, and I definitely enjoyed it. The book wasn't what I expected, but that being said, I did really enjoy the book, and I think it'd be a fun one to discuss with a group. Then we just have 3 more prompts. For our 11th prompts, it's hay rides and corn mazes. Pick a book that kept you guessing and had lots of twists and turns. And my pick for this one is 5 Broken Blades by Maya Corland. This series was an absolute joy for me this year. I went into it without super high expectations. It's a romantasy, but it's not kind of your typical fantasy romantasy. There are some fantasy and magic elements in it, but it's more political in nature than I would say a true fantasy. And it's based very loosely on Korean folklore, and we're following 5 different characters. We're following an exiled prince, a poison mistress, a spy master, a strongman, and a thief. And these characters, they start out all on kind of separate missions, and then they end up being brought together to try to kill the God King. And they have to learn how to trust each other, work together. They all have secrets that they're keeping. And then there's just twists and turns the whole way through the book. It's very fast-paced. We get all 5 characters' point of views, plus there's a 6th one that we get as well. The chapters are super short, which I really think helped making you feel like you were in the moment with all of the characters because you were getting all of their different perspectives about what was going on. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. And then at the end of every one of the books in this series, things just blow up and go crazy and will end not how you expect them to at all. So if you like all the twists and turns and kind of being on the edge of your seat, this is a great series. I don't think it gets the attention that it deserves. So yeah, I would definitely suggest picking this one up. And for our 12th prompt, it's Thankful Heart. Pick a book that you are grateful exists. And for me, that is The Last Herald Mage trilogy by Mercedes Lackey. I've talked about this series a few different times on my channel, but it is an older series. It's been out for quite some time, but you can still get your hands on it. And was a pivotal series in my life. And that may be seem like I'm saying a whole lot about a fantasy book, but I picked up this series, I think I was probably around 15 at the time. And in this series, we're following Vaniel, who is something called a herald, and he is also a special kind of herald who has magical powers as well. And this is also a queer romance series. And I read this book in the early 90s, which you did not see queer romance books or many queer books of any kind at that time. And you know, it's just written in a way that really just makes you see Vaniel as a person and feel for him. And I just loved it. And I think like it really, Mercedes Lackey's writing is very inclusive in general. And I just think it really opened my eyes up to the idea that people can love whoever they want to love. And it was a great series to read. I think I read it at a great time in my life. It was probably the first book I ever sobbed about. So it is got some very sad parts about it. So just know that going into it, but it's a great fantasy. Love Valdemar, love all Mercedes Lackey's work, and I think it really holds up well over time. So if you've never checked out any of her books, definitely do so, but I would start with this series because it's kind of a pivotal point in Valdemar and a great place to get started with her writing. And then for our final prompt, it is First Frost. A book that gives you the chills by either being spooky, atmospheric, or emotional. For this one, I am choosing Kingdom of Ash, and the last book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. If you're familiar with the Throne of Glass series at all, then you know how emotional this series is and how much you grow to love all the characters, to, you know, root for them, to feel for them, to want them to win and overcome and, you know, have their peace and their shining moments. And this book, such a good book, such an emotional read. I feel like lots of people have read the Throne of Glass series, so I'm not really going to go into what it is. But if you haven't, and you like just an epic fantasy with lots of characters, points of view, and really strong female characters and really strong male characters, then I think this would be a great series for you. This book was devastating, but I loved every minute of it. So that was our final prompt, and that will wrap up our video for today. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me and kind of hearing my picks for these different prompts. I'll leave all of them down below in the description box in case you want to pick out books for yourself using the prompts and then either share them with me, or if you make videos, you know, you can do a video with them too. The tag videos are kind of just fun seasonal things that I know I personally love watching on people's channel. So those will be down in the description box. Take care, keep reading, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.